Okay, let's get started building our own application. I'm going to log into the server, set08101, and what I want to do is find the file. So this site here has got some files for me to get started. So let's take a look at them. Now I'm going to go into public HTML. I'm going to make a directory called airline. Now, first of all, I will unzip the files because that might have a directory already. Let's unzip that lot, and sorry, that's downloaded it. Now we'll unzip the airline, and it's created it in a folder called CS1 2016 CW1, and I want to change that name. I'm gonna, if I do ls, you can see that's the thing that got downloaded, and I don't like that file name, so I'm going to change the file name to airline. Sorry, change CW1 to airline, and we'll go into airline and take a look at the files we've got. So we've got booking 1 and booking 2. These are both JSON files. I've got index.html. Index.html is the default for this folder. I've got probably an old copy of jQuery. I've got seats, and I've got a JavaScript file. Let's take a look at that. So I'll go to the address, which is 400 SET, and if I go to airline, then it should load it up. So what's going on here? I've got details of the trip. I've got a booking summary, and you can see I've got a seat plan here. So some of this has been done for me, but you can see there are some things missing. It says there are 0 adults, and subtotal is wrong. That date could well be right. I'm going to Edinburgh 2, where to 1. That should say Geneva, I think. I've got details, and the way this is working is that as soon as the page loads, if I look at the network, let's reload, you can see that the first thing it does, so that's the HTML file, this is the jQuery library, this is the jQuery function that I've written, some CSS, and here's the data. Let's see that happening. So vi seats.js, we can see the file I begin already. This is the ready function, starts here and ends there. And in between, I do an AJAX call. This is an AJAX call. I've used getJSON here, which is the same thing as the $.ajax we saw before. The URL is booking1.json. That's a fixed file at the moment. It should really come from a database. And this is the success function. So after that data has loaded, this is the success function that kicks off, and I change where from this thing with ID where from, which I'm guessing is this one here. That's Edinburgh that I'm going from. That's where from, yep. And that gets changed to d.wherefrom. Let's take a look at the download. Here's the network, and here's booking. We can see this is the JSON file that came down, and where from is Edinburgh, and where to is Geneva. So the first thing I'm going to do is try and make Geneva show up. I'm going from Edinburgh to Geneva. So this where to here, I'm guessing that's got an ID. It has, it's called where to 1. That's odd name for it. Still, that's what it's called. So let's try and do the same thing. So I'm going to yank that line and paste it. Instead of where from, it's going to say where to 1. And the value that I pick up is from D. That's the data that we downloaded. Let's have a look at that. The value we want is Geneva. That's just where to. So change that thing to 2. And let's write that out. So we've updated where to 1 with where to, and we've saved it. Let's see if that worked. Refresh, and we can say Edinburgh to Geneva. Let's take a look at the list of tasks that we have to do. First thing, layout is centered. The box's trip details and booking summary are placed to the right, and the row numbers and the seat numbers are indicated on the site plan. Let's try that. And let's take a look at the EasyJet site for a moment and compare it. So this block here, this is where the seats are going in. This indicates which seats have been chosen, and this block here, that corresponds to this stuff here, where we're going from, and summary details of the flight. So we've got where, the date, and where it's going, and so forth. So I want to make this block appear on the right. I'm going to have a go at that. So this block here, your trip, your trip, your trip to where to. Okay, your trip where to, and your trip where to. So I want to make those things look the same. So that where to there, that should also be Geneva. Let's change that as well. That's why there's a where to 1 and a where to 2. So I'm going to copy that and paste it again. And where to 1 should say Geneva as well. Write that out, reload it. Okay, your trip to Geneva. Right, so this block here, let's identify it and see if we can stick it over on the right. So if I right click and inspect, that's your trip, and then it says to Geneva, and that's in content, and it's trip details, that block there. So that whole block, I want that moved over to the right. Let's go into the CSS and try and do that. So come out of this and take a look at the CSS. That's called seats.css, and not much here. Let's put in the block, I think, had an ID of your trip, was it? Let me take a look. Inspect your trip details. So hash trip details. Okay, so that we can see it properly, let's give it a border. Border is solid. And reload. Okay, now we can see it. I want to fix its width, and I'm tempted just to copy this thing here. What's the width of that? Let's inspect that. And we'll find the block. That's the basket. That's the itinerary. They've called it itinerary block. Can you see that? That's the itinerary block. And can I work out how wide it is? So it says 279. I'm going to go with pixels, 279 wide. So let's make the width. Width is 279 pixels. And reload. Okay, and I want to move it over to the right. One way to do that is to say position is absolute and right is 0. Let's try that and reload. So we can see it's shifted over to the right. It's staying, it's hugging the right edge there. That's not what EasyJet do, but I'm going to leave it like that. So that's hugging the right there, and it's moved this booking summary. That looks like this thing here. So this is the booking summary. This is indicating which seats that have been selected. So that's coming over, and it's just going to the left of that. So I could take that as well. Let's take this booking summary, inspect that. That's called booking summary. Let's try lining that up. So hash booking summary. We've got to get the upper and lowercase right. Again, we'll put in the border so we can see it, and we'll have the same width. We'll also have position absolute. But this right, I don't want that to be 0. If I make right 279 pixels, then maybe that will line up exactly. Okay, so I've got booking summary, I've got your trip, and this space here in the middle is for that stuff. I don't know, maybe I want the booking summary down here, but let's leave it like this at the minute. It means that I need quite a lot of width if I'm going to put this booking summary in. The key goes below the booking summary. So I could take this key, inspect that, that's called key. I could do something very similar and try and put that below the other one. What was it called? Key? Yes, key. So let's try and position that. So hash key. We've started with this stuff here. Let's keep it going. So right, but I want the top of that to be below the booking summary. Booking summary, I don't know how big that's going to be. It's probably going to be a bit bigger than that. Let's just make it 200 pixels. So that should put it below the booking summary. And reload. Okay, 200 was quite a lot. But that's okay. It doesn't look pretty yet, but it will do. Okay, and then this is the aircraft body, and that's where I want to put things in. These ugly borders, they're going to have to go. But it's not urgent to get rid of that stuff yet. Okay, I've got a very rough layout at the moment, and I'm going to go back to my instructions to see what it is I've got to do. The layout is centered. Haven't done that. The boxes, trip details, booking summary keys placed on the right. Okay, when we have a centered outlook, let's have a look at this. So we can see what's happening is EasyJet have centered this whole thing. So this whole space has got a fixed number of pixels. If I, and this is quite common, it means that it's not going to work well. We can't use the same screen on a mobile device easily, but it's got a fixed width layout. We can tell it's got a fixed width layout because as I expand, I keep picking the wrong thing. As I expand the edge here, it stays centered as I get this, make this bigger and smaller. But if I go to the minimum size, you can see the horizontal scroll bar appearing. And that's unfortunate, but it's a consequence of having a fixed width layout. So what's happened is all of this stuff here is in a div, and that div has got a fixed width. And I'm tempted just to copy that layout. It means that I can be placing all of these components according to pixel calculations. So I'm pretty sure I've got something similar going on, everything in one block. Let's see what it's called in my version. Where's my version? Seat booking. This is my version here. So I think everything's in a container. Let's inspect it. See body, style, div, content. So the whole lot is in content. What I'm going to do is make content fixed size and center it. So let's make up content. So hash. This is quite a common thing. We often have all of the content in a div, and that div is often called content. All right, standard thing is to set the width, and I want that to be pretty wide. And I'm just gonna steal whatever EasyJet have done. So page wrap, wrapper, page wrap, div. I'm trying to find the main content thing. That looks like it there. Nope, this one here. Column left. No. Page wrap. That could be it. Given up looking at that. I just want to know how big this thing is. I don't know. 800 pixels. 800 pixels. Let's set the background color to gray so that we can see it. And the trick to making stuff centered is, I think we have position is relative, and you set the margin left is auto and the margin right is auto, and I'm pretty sure that'll center about everything. Let's see if we can find our version, not that one, this one, reload. Okay, can you see all the content there is centered, and as I make this bigger and smaller, it stays in place. So as I make this bigger and smaller, that's all staying in place, and I've got trips and trip summary and all of that kind of stuff, booking details, trip summary, that's all done. And it's fixed width, and I've got the thing that I don't like is that as I go below the minimum size, I get that horizontal scroll bar, which I'm trying to avoid. So I've gone for 1,000. I've gone for 800 pixels. They're using considerably more. So that's them, and this is me. So I'm doing 800. So that's 800. That width there. Let's give it another 20. Another 200. Let's make it around 1,000. I'm not trying to make this exactly the same, just trying to get it roughly corresponding. That looks, they've used a bit less than. That's fine, I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so that's my content, and my content is centered. And that's working well. Have I got roughly these things about the same size? That's your trip. That's booking summary. Booking summary is a bit wider. Your trip is a bit narrower. That's good enough for me. Okay. Do we want to give it any borders? They've got quite a nice layout here. I'm not going to try and ape that, but they've got some subtle borders indicating where these boxes are. I'm not worrying too much at this stage about the appearance. That implies that sometimes I do care. That's just not true. Usually get someone else to do this kind of stuff for me. Write that and reload. Okay, so I've got the stuff centered, and I've got some ugly borders. That's enough for this stage. We'll have another video in a minute.